Anybody can send a text. Anybody can make promises. But real love leaves fingerprints on your soul. A man who truly loves you doesn't just say it, he shows it day after day, not through perfection, but through presence. Let that settle in your chest for a second, my friends, because if nobody said it to you before, let me be the first. You deserve more than words. You deserve evidence. You deserve a love that moves, breathes, and walks the talk. Not one that hides behind emojis or shows up when it's convenient. Love isn't a mood. It's a motion. It's a rhythm. So before we dive deep, do me, and more importantly, do you a favor. Hit that like button, smash subscribe. Not just because it helps the channel, but because every time you pour into your own understanding of love, you raise the standard of what you allow into your life, and that's where the shift begins. Hey ladies, imagine this. You walk into a quiet jazz club, low light, slow music. In the corner, a man's playing piano. Not flashy, not loud, just smooth, steady, soulful. Every note lands, every pause has purpose. You don't need him to perform, you just feel him. That's what real love is like. It doesn't yell, it hums. It's not in the big gestures or Instagram posts. It's in the way he listens when you're tired, the way he adjusts without making you beg, the way his energy settles your nervous system without a single word. Now compare that to the guy who talks a lot but says nothing, sends heart emojis, disappears for 3 days, comes back with "been busy." That's noise. And my friends, noise might sound good for a second, but it fades fast. We're not doing noise anymore, we're doing resonance. Carl Jung once said, the unconscious is always watching. And when a man really loves you, it's not just his behavior that changes, it's his energy. His presence shifts, his instincts soften. You stop being an option and start becoming a reflection of what he values, what he fears losing, and who he wants to be more of. But somewhere along the line, you were told to settle for sparks instead of substance. They told you love had to be chaotic, dramatic, confusing, that if it was easy, it wasn't real. Lies, all of it. Drama is not a sign of passion. It's a symptom of misalignment. Real love isn't loud, but it is powerful. It doesn't keep you guessing. It grounds you. It doesn't drain you. It expands you. And if that kind of love feels rare these days, it's not because it doesn't exist. It's because most people are too distracted to recognize it. They're chasing butterflies, missing anchors, but not you, not anymore. Because today, we're cutting through the fluff and getting to the heart of it. What does real, grounded, masculine love actually look like? Not in a fairy tale, in real life. What does a man who truly values your heart do when no one's watching? How does he move? What does he shift? How does his soul speak? And so if you're already with someone or about to meet a man who matters, listen close, because what we're about to unpack, this isn't advice, it's alignment. It's not about chasing attention, it's about understanding how to feel when love is real. Stay with me, my friends, because what you hear next might not just confirm what you felt, it might unlock a whole new level of what you deserve. Number 1, he adjusts, not just apologizes. Apology without adjustment is just performance. Real love doesn't say, "I'm sorry." Real love says, "Watch me do better." Let's be honest, my friends. Words are easy. Sorry rolls off the tongue like water off a smooth stone. But it's what comes after that word that separates a man who wants to keep you from a man who's just trying to calm the storm. Love doesn't just acknowledge the wound, it learns how not to cause it again. Now picture this, you're driving a car through heavy rain, the windshield wipers are on, visibility's low, and suddenly, bam, you hit a pothole, hard. You grip the wheel, heart racing, and look at your partner in the passenger seat. He turns to you and says, "My bad," but then does nothing. Keeps driving the same speed, doesn't swerve for the next hole, doesn't even slow down. You're tense now. Not because of the pothole, but because you know another one's coming and he's not adjusting. That's what it feels like to be with a man who apologizes but refuses to grow. And I know what you're thinking, but what if he means it? What if he's trying? What if I'm being too hard on him? No, don't confuse temporary remorse with long-term change. A man who loves you doesn't want to be right. He wants to be real. And being real means recognizing his impact and choosing better. Not once, not when you cry, but because something in him shifts. Jung said it best, Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. If a man isn't aware of his own patterns, he'll keep repeating them, and you'll keep calling it a misunderstanding. But a man who loves you, he wants to wake up, not just because you brought it up, but because the idea of losing your trust shakes something inside him. That's love. That's self-awareness. That's evolution. Now, maybe you've been told you're too sensitive or too demanding for wanting someone to change how they show up. But hear me loud and clear. Asking for growth isn't asking for perfection. It's asking for partnership. And a real man, he doesn't flinch at that. He leans in because the right one doesn't see feedback as an attack. He sees it as a mirror, one that shows him where love lives and where ego gets in the way. So if he hears your pain but keeps stepping on the same cracks, that's not forgetfulness. That's avoidance. And if he says all the right things but you don't feel the shift, that's not miscommunication, that's misalignment. Look, real love isn't defensive, it's responsive. And a man who's connected to his deeper self, his conscious self, doesn't just apologize because you're upset. He reflects, he realigns. He doesn't just want to make it right, he needs to because he values who you are in his life. And more importantly, he values who he becomes because of you. That's what we're here for, ladies. Not half love, not hollow sorries, but men who adjust the mirror, not just admire the view. So the next time someone says, "I'm sorry," ask yourself, did the energy change or just the sentence? Because when a man truly loves you, growth becomes his love language. And what's coming up next? It's what happens when love doesn't wait to be asked, when his actions speak before your exhaustion, when he shows up not for recognition, but from intuition. Stay with me, because we're about to talk about the kind of love that offers without being asked. Number 2, he offers without you asking. The man who waits to be told is performing. The man who sees and steps up, that's love in motion. Let's tell the truth, my friends. Most women are tired, not just physically, emotionally, spiritually, carrying the invisible weight of holding everything together while still being expected to smile through it. You've been told to communicate better, ask for what you need, make lists, spell it out. But the man who really loves you, he doesn't wait for instructions. He notices, he senses, he moves without being told. Imagine this. You're at home after a long day. Hair tied up, bra's already been flung across the room, and you're just trying to breathe. There's laundry in the basket, dishes in the sink, and your brain is juggling 20 tabs like a browser about to crash. You didn't ask for help, you didn't text a hint. But then he walks in, sees your face, scans the room, and just starts doing, quietly, effortlessly. Not for applause, not for validation, but because your comfort matters to him. Your peace is part of his purpose now. That's what I call provision energy. And no, I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about effort awareness, that sacred masculine instinct to step in when something feels heavy on your shoulders, even if you haven't said a word, not because he's trying to impress you, but because he's connected to you. His love is tuned to your frequency. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. But is it too much to expect him to know? Shouldn't I just be grateful when he helps? Listen closely. You shouldn't have to micromanage your emotional safety. The man who truly loves you will see when you're drowning, even if you're good at hiding it. And he won't just throw you a lifeline. He'll jump in with both feet. There's a difference between a man who helps and a man who offers. One waits for permission, the other moves with intention. And yes, we all want to be independent. Yes, you're strong. But love isn't about proving you can do it all. It's about having someone who makes you feel like you don't always have to. Carl Jung said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." The man who offers from within, he's awake. He's not just dreaming of being a good partner. He is one because his heart is in the game. So when he offers to carry a piece of your world without being asked, don't downplay it. Don't brush it off. Receive it. That's not weakness. That's divine balance. Because a man who offers is a man who sees. And a man who sees is a man who loves. What we're about to step into next is even deeper. Because when a man truly loves you, he doesn't just respond to your needs in the now. He starts envisioning the two of you in the future. And how he talks reveals everything. Stay with me, my friends. This next one changes the game. Number 3, he sees you in his future and speaks it. A man who talks about the future without you isn't confused. He's clear. He just doesn't see you in it. Let that land for a moment, my friends, because this part, it reveals everything. When a man truly loves you, he doesn't just think about how you fit into his present. He instinctively begins to shape his future around your presence. Not out of obligation, not to impress you, and certainly not to manipulate. He does it because his soul starts anchoring to something real. Picture this. You're walking through a Sunday market, laughing, sipping on something overpriced, sharing inside jokes. He sees a food truck and says, "Next time we come here, we're trying that." Not if, not maybe, next time. Or maybe he's scrolling through his phone, sees a video of someone hiking in Bali and says, "You and I should do that one day." He's not making a formal plan. He's making a subconscious statement. You belong in my world beyond this moment. That's not romance for show. That's vision in action. See, a man's unconscious ties bonding to foresight. He may not talk about feelings often, but listen carefully to how he talks about time. When a man starts to use we instead of me, when he starts saying when instead of if, he's revealing something deeper than surface charm. He's beginning to imagine life with you woven into the fabric of it. And no, it's not about grand gestures or rushing into forever. It's about patterns, those little shifts in language and energy that show you he's not trying to keep you on the outside looking in. He's opening the door, quietly, naturally, because he's starting to feel safe enough to include you in the architecture of his future. Now, some of you might be wondering, but what if he doesn't talk about the future at all? Well, that doesn't mean he's a bad man, but it might mean he's not deeply in it with you, at least not yet. Because the man who's emotionally invested starts to speak differently, not with pressure, not with promises, but with placement. He puts you in his calendar before you've even asked to be there. Carl Jung once said, "Your visions will become clear only when you look into your own heart." And that's the truth here. A man who's in touch with what his heart wants, he'll speak your name into his tomorrows without even thinking twice. You won't have to hint. You won't have to nudge, and you sure won't have to beg, because you'll feel it. You'll hear it in the way he talks about dinner next week or the concert next month or how your mom would probably love this place. That's not fantasy. That's a man planting emotional roots. He's not making a pitch. He's building a pattern. And so if he includes you naturally without ceremony or fear, that's not just casual talk. That's clarity. And what's coming next? That sacred moment when he realizes your presence isn't just wanted, it's missed. Because when a man loves you, your absence doesn't just echo, it hurts. Stay with me. We're about to talk about what happens when silence speaks louder than words. Number 4, he feels your absence. You'll know how much space you held in his heart by how loudly the silence echoes when you're gone. My friends, this part right here, it's where love reveals itself in the shadows. Because real love isn't only seen in what a man says when you're near, it's in what he feels when you're not. A man who truly loves you doesn't just enjoy your presence, he's attuned to it. Your laughter, your energy, even your quiet breath across the room, it becomes part of his rhythm. And when that rhythm disappears, it doesn't go unnoticed. It lands like a pause in a song he didn't want to end. Imagine this. You've been texting every day, even the simple stuff, good morning, memes, random thoughts. Then one day you go quiet, no drama, no goodbye, just silence. A man who is half in won't blink. He'll scroll, distract, forget. But a man who feels you, his whole system shifts. He notices the stillness, not out of ego or panic, but because something real is missing from his day. That's the thing about love. It's not just about presence. It's about energetic imprint. Carl Jung would call this the emergence of the shadow. When something that lived below the surface becomes impossible to ignore, your absence presses against his awareness like a truth he can no longer escape. And don't mistake this for neediness. This isn't the man who gets anxious because you're not feeding his ego. This is the man who senses the distance because your energy has meaning now. You've become more than company. You've become connection. And when that thread loosens, it tugs at him hard. He might not send a grand gesture. He might not say, "I miss you" in the exact way you hope, but he'll reach in his way, a call, a check-in, a subtle nudge to see where you are. That's not strategy. That's soul memory. That's presence that's been pierced by absence. Because when a man really loves you, silence doesn't feel like space. It feels like loss. And next, we're stepping into one of the deepest truths of masculine love, when he doesn't just hear your pain, but sees it before you speak. When he carries your peace like it's something he's responsible for. Stay with me, because what's coming next, that's where devotion lives. Number 5, he feels responsible for your peace. A real man doesn't just love your smile, he guards what creates it. Let that hit for a second, my friends, because too many women have been taught to wear peace like makeup, to fake calm, to shrink their needs, to keep things light even when their soul feels heavy. But love, real love, doesn't ask you to pretend. It participates in your well-being. A man who truly loves you, he doesn't just enjoy your good moods. He understands he's part of the atmosphere you breathe in, and he treats that responsibility with reverence. Imagine this. You walk into the room, something's off, you're quiet, holding back tears. The day wore you down, you don't say anything, but he sees it, feels it. Your energy's different. And instead of brushing it off or getting uncomfortable, he shifts. He lowers his voice, softens his posture. Maybe he pulls you into his arms. Maybe he just sits next to you and says, "Talk to me when you're ready." He doesn't fix it. He doesn't pressure it. He honors it. That's what it means when a man feels responsible for your peace. He doesn't carry it for you, but he refuses to be the reason you lose it. He knows his silence can speak. He knows his tone can either soothe or scar, and he chooses intentionally to protect your spirit, even when he's tired, even when he's triggered, because that's what care looks like when it's matured beyond romance and into emotional intelligence. And now let's be clear, this isn't about control. It's not about him managing your emotions. That's not love. That's ego in disguise. This is deeper. This is about a man who understands that when he said he loved you, he didn't just mean the fun parts. He meant the fragile parts too. And that his presence should bring peace, not pressure. Jung said, "Where love reigns, there is no will to power." Meaning a man who truly loves you doesn't dominate your space, he respects it. He doesn't escalate to win arguments. He de-escalates to preserve connection, because love isn't proven in the easy moments. It's revealed in the tension. And when that man sees your spirit starting to spiral, he doesn't walk away. He doesn't shut down. He steps closer with care, with calm, with intention. That's when you know his love isn't just about you. It's about what he cultivates with you. And next, we're stepping into one of the most powerful signs of a man who's emotionally awake. The quiet kind, the observant kind, the man who remembers the little things you said once, even after you've forgotten them. Stay with me, my friends. This next one is all about the details and how love lives in the ones you didn't think mattered. Number 6, he remembers the details you forgot you shared. The heart remembers what the mind overlooks, especially when it's paying attention in love. Now this, my friends, is where the difference between surface attraction and soul-level connection shows up. Because a man who's just playing a part, he listens to respond. But a man who loves you, he listens to remember. Not to score points, not to look good, but because his spirit is dialed in. You ever casually mention that your coffee order changes in winter, or that growing up you always wanted to learn the guitar? Maybe you shared how Wednesdays used to give you anxiety in college. You dropped it in a sentence, a laugh, a passing conversation. You forgot about it 2 minutes later, but he didn't. Weeks later, he brings you that exact winter coffee without asking, or sends you a reel of someone learning guitar and says, "Thought of you," or texts you on a random Wednesday with a simple, "Hey, today doesn't get to own you anymore." You didn't prompt it, you didn't remind him, but he remembered. That's not manipulation, that's presence. See, a man who's emotionally anchored in love doesn't just hear what you say, he holds it. Because everything you reveal, even in the smallest way, becomes a thread in the emotional fabric he's weaving with you. And it's not about being perfect, it's not about remembering everything. But when a man chooses to tune into you, the things that matter to you start to matter to him. Carl Jung said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." And this is that transformation when a man begins to carry pieces of your world in his mind, not because he has to, but because something in him wants to hold it. This kind of love doesn't ask you to repeat yourself 10 times just to feel seen. This kind of love notices. And that noticing, that's what creates safety. That's what creates trust. So when he remembers what you forgot, you even said, that's not just a sweet gesture. That's a signal. That's love's quiet proof. And what's coming next? It's the ultimate measure, because anyone can show up once. Anyone can be great for a week. But the man who truly loves you, he moves with consistency. And that, my friends, is where real devotion lives. Stay with me. We're almost there. Number 7, he moves with consistency, not hype. Consistency is love's quiet proof. Hype fades, but rhythm stays. Let's tell the truth, my friends. Anyone can be amazing once. Anyone can plan a date, post you on their story, say the right words in a text. But real love is not a highlight reel. It's a pattern. It's a rhythm. It's who he is when no one's watching, when there's nothing to gain, when the honeymoon glow wears off. A man who truly loves you doesn't just appear when it's convenient or romantic. He shows up because it's who he is with you. He doesn't disappear and come back like it's a performance. He doesn't need applause to keep moving. He's steady, intentional, present. Imagine this. It's Tuesday, nothing special, no anniversary, no big plans. But he texts you, "How's your day going?" Not because he's trying to earn points, but because your well-being matters to him. Or he follows up on something small you said days ago, like your work meeting or your sister's appointment. That's not a grand gesture. That's emotional rhythm. That's care turned into habit. You don't have to guess where he stands. You don't have to beg for attention. You don't walk on eggshells wondering, is he still into this? Because his actions speak louder than his good days. And his consistency calms your nervous system, not confuses it. Love isn't about being perfect every single time. It's about being present over time. Carl Jung said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." And when it comes to love, that couldn't be more true. A man's consistency is the mirror of his emotional maturity. It's not about the big romantic gestures. It's about the small, sacred ones he repeats. The text, the check-in, the way he remembers to call, the follow-through, the showing up. Because when a man loves you, he's not trying to win you anymore. He's trying to build with you. And building takes rhythm, not rush. So when his love feels like a steady heartbeat, not a drum roll, you can trust it. You can rest in it. And next, my friends, we step into something even deeper, the kind of love that transforms not just the relationship, but the man himself. Stay with me. What's coming next? That's where evolution begins. Number 8, he becomes a better man because of you. The right woman doesn't change a man with pressure. She awakens the part of him that wants to grow. My friends, this final piece isn't about power, it's about presence. Because when a man truly loves you, something inside him begins to shift. Not because you nagged, not because you laid down ultimatums, but because simply being in your energy makes him want to step into more of who he already knows he can be. He's not changing to impress you. He's evolving because loving you shows him what kind of man he wants to be. Patient, focused, honest, grounded. Imagine this. He used to brush things off, shrug conflict, cut corners. But now, he pauses before reacting. He chooses his words more carefully. He starts reading more, thinking more, showing up to life with a deeper awareness. Not because you asked him to, but because the version of himself that shows up next to you is better than the version that came before. You didn't force it. You didn't beg. You just inspired it. That's what real connection does. It reveals possibility. It mirrors back untapped potential. It speaks to the soul without needing a script. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." That's what you're looking for, sis. Not just a man who stands beside you, but a man who rises beside you. Because of your energy, because of your presence, because when he looks at you, he doesn't see pressure. He sees purpose. You become the mirror. And in that mirror, he sees the man he's proud to become. And maybe he doesn't say it outright. Maybe he's not poetic with it, but you'll feel it in the way he handles your heart, in the way he starts thinking further ahead, in the way he responds to stress with more calm, in the way he begins treating himself better, because he now carries something more sacred, you. That, my friends, is the quiet power of real love. It doesn't demand evolution, it invites it. So no, you're not too much for wanting growth, depth, and transformation in your relationship. You're just finally asking for what love was always meant to be. And here's the truth, my friends. Real love doesn't perform, it persists. It's not a highlight, it's a heartbeat. A man who truly loves you won't leave you wondering. He won't just say it, he'll show it over and over through presence, peace, and quiet consistency. So if this spoke to something deep in you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Because the more we raise the standard for love, the more we become the standard. Stay grounded, stay glowing, and I'll see you in the next one.